So it has come to this, a live-action TV show based in the Fallout universe taking place around 9 years after the events of Fallout 4 in 2296. Am I just too spoiled when I say I would rather have the next chapter in gaming with Fallout 5, or at least that remaster of Fallout 3 that's 9 years overdue itself? Either one of these would have solidified my support and love of the franchise, so the question here is, what is my take on these first 4 episodes, and do they do the trick? I must be honest in my opinion, but I will try to be detailed in how I convey my thoughts on the season so far. I will cover some of the things I liked and most of the things I didn't, so within these areas there will be mild spoilers, if not full-on spoilers. I will also give a score out of 10 on each episode. I have dedicated a great portion of my content to the Fallout that I fell in love with, and I must call BS when I see it. I know this season has been cleaning up with great reviews, but the vision portrayed here falls short of greatness in my opinion. I know there will be a slew of comments I need to wade through, so give me some time and I'll do my best to respond. So let's get started on episode 1. I'm going to start off with a positive thing to say about the season and compliment the music choices for the specific scenes chosen. They always seem to nail the mood with the accompaniment, and I can't complain about that at all. Now, I have to ask, how many people held up their thumbs to the screen when they showed the first mushroom cloud? Like Johnny Cash would say, I'm guilty as charged, and I felt a little engaged at that point because the cloud surpassed my thumb. Anyways, I really liked the opening and the transition into Vault life. I wanted to see more of that, and instead I got a bloodfest early on. Now, I was expecting that, but it came a bit too early for me. I wanted to see the development of Lucy's character better by not throwing her into conflict so quickly. It seemed like she took to violence like a duck to water, especially when she had been raised so peacefully. It would have been nice to see how she acquired her unique personality traits through maybe showing her childhood run-ins or how she scored on her aptitude test. Both things that the game Fallout 3 covers quite well in its gameplay. The decision to leave the vault in search of her kidnapped father came very abruptly as well. I really just wanted to see maybe even the first few episodes focus more strongly on the vault community. I mean, otherwise, there's really no character development early on to make me care about anyone in the vault. I must address also that jumping around between characters took the cohesiveness out of this pilot episode. I really would have appreciated more time given to main characters. Did they nail the visuals in this episode? I would say yes. For the most part, it felt reasonably good, with the vault in particular being a strong point. The wasteland, once it was shown, wasn't horrible, but did seem to lack sheer amounts of cityscape that you might see after multiple bomb drops in Los Angeles, where this took place. I really feel there should have been more debris portrayed rather than huge open desert-looking areas. For the other main characters, I wasn't too angry with Maximus from the Brotherhood, but his story did seem to drag a little, and hardly captured him as a protagonist, which I kind of wanted to see out of him. The Ghoul's entry was a bit quick and gratuitous, as he is basically resurrected from the grave with probably around the same amount of witnesses as Yeshua had during oral traditional Bible times. Sorry for my digression, but how can I not use that? Okay, so a fast introduction to the non-feral Ghoul piqued my interest into his role in this season, and I thought that was done pretty well. Overall, the first episode I would give a 7 out of 10 score to, which constitutes it as good, but not great. Let's quickly move on to my thoughts on episode 2. So the introduction of the Canine CX-404 was a nice touch and gave me Rocket Raccoon vibes throughout the intro. This episode as a whole just felt a bit more like the games. What may be the biggest plot carry of this season, however, was the Enclave scientist named Wilzig, appearing right alongside our puppy star in the opening scenes, but we'll get to him later. I liked the dynamic they created between Squires and Brotherhood of Steel members, as if the Squires were lowly dogs themselves, feeding on the scraps of the Brotherhood of Steel's glory. When I saw Michael Rappaport underneath that armor, it made sense why he was such a dickweed to Maximus. He plays that role well. It also made sense why there were 40 usages of the F-word through his screen time. He's the original Mr. Pottymouth. The encounter with the Yao Guai was cool to see, yet a bit strange looking, just barely passable in my opinion. The classic 10mm pistol was used by Maximus to dispatch of the creature. I just wish they went down that easy in the game. Yeah, not very accurate there. So, moving on. I liked the encounter Lucy had with the farmer, but once she was told it was too dangerous to get to her destination, I was thinking, cool, we're going to get to see some wasteland action. Nope, she just happily trudged forward, and the next thing you know, she's in Philly. Not one rad scorpion encounter, not one mole rat encounter, heck, not even a mongrel encounter. I call missed opportunities here. After Maximus acquires the T-60 suit from the unworthy Pottymouth, he decides to help his fellow man when he sees a scuffle, and inadvertently helps out the infamous chicken lover from South Park, who has reprised his role once again. After Lucy arrives to Philly, unscathed by her dangerous journey, she meets up with a trader who has her very own Pottymouth. Soon after, the scientist arrives and the shindig goes down. The ghoul is hunting the scientist for a very special bounty that we won't reveal yet. This might have been my favorite part of episode 2 because Walton Goggins as the ghoul nails his acting and is a very formidable foe. Everyone comes together and some fun violence ensues. I'd say it was fun until the janky way that the T-60 power armor was portrayed as malfunctioning when it flew. Call me obtuse, but isn't the rocket on the back of the armor in the game and not on the hands? Not sure if this was a last-minute decision from some Iron Man fan on the cutting room floor, but I say stick to the game material. Also, that same Iron Man fan decided it would be a nice Marvel nod to make the helmet rise up from the middle to display Maximus in all of his hornified glory after saving Lucy. So then we end the episode with Lucy getting head. Literally. No, they didn't go that far, so stop picturing that. I'm talking about the scientist who's offed himself and then tells her to travel light by just lopping off his melon. Okie dokie. As a whole, I thought episode 2 was slightly better than the first, hence my score of 7.5 out of 10. So far, the show is riddled with flashbacks, and that is how episode 3 starts. A little unremarkable, but is followed up by Lucy playing with her newly acquired relic. What a head case. I would be lying if Lollipop Chainsaw didn't come to mind here, and everyone's been telling me it's a funny season, but I still don't really see it yet. Especially when playing with a human head might realistically turn off any sheltered female. All the while, we have Maximus trying to figure out a minor malfunction on his new relic, and having a run-in with some raiders that proves to be head-focused again. Only this time, there was no salvaging it. So after he takes the role of Knight Titus, the faction sends him out a new squire, thinking Maximus is dead. Again, I like this idea of the squire acting as a caddy for the Brotherhood of Steel. So finally, our next creature is introduced, seen in Appalachia and the island, and it's called a Gulper. Basically, it's a mutated salamander, and it steals Lucy's relic. Funny they would choose one of the more rare creatures to highlight here, but I guess I'll take anything from the lack of creature-focused content thus far. The rest of the show meanders around some more with interactions between Maximus's new squire and the ghoul trying to use Lucy as bait to get back the head from the Gulper. I was a bit bored through these areas, so it's a bit of a blur. Not the best episodes so far. Next, I'd like to call attention to the Vault meeting that, in all fairness, felt like how some cults would convene. These are the areas that I like because you have naivety mixed with a little rebellion here, so it works good as a contrast. Straight into a scene where Maximus has to rescue his squire from a Gulper and retrieve the head that Lucy obtained earlier. Ending this episode out with another flashback that didn't seem so necessary, I wasn't involved so deeply with this one. There were some good ideas scattered throughout, but nothing that was very remarkable, and leads me to a score of 6.5 out of 10. Okay, we're 4 episodes in, and the chips are raised a bit more. Let me mention also that some scattered Radroach shots are welcomed due to the lack of overall creature content. This is our first real introduction to how feral ghouls turn when they are low on biles. I liked the overall darkness of this episode that also tips its hat at cannibalism in this scene. I think that Lucy's desperation with the ghoul as she chugs some irradiated water in one of our next scenes is a nice build to what is a bit of an unbelievable reaction to finger loss, but hey, maybe she took some buff out and felt a bit overpowered. Probably the worst idea of this episode was the next Vault scene where Bert's wife decided to get frisky with another Vault member by dressing him up as her late husband. I don't know if they were going for humor or just shock value here, but I wasn't feeling it for sure. Especially mid-makeout when she lost her water. Yeah, kind of a killjoy. Finally, a nod to the Super Duper Mart in our next sequence and a proper backdrop of LA behind it. This part looked great and led to the meeting of the anticipated Mr. Handy. He looked the part, and I'm very happy with how they portrayed this sadistically programmed robot. Starting to feel like something we could see in the game here. Next, the cut to the Overseer's son finding out some crucial information about Vault 32 leads down a rabbit hole and some unauthorized exploration of said vault. No doubt some disturbing info was observed and sets up the season for some deeper digging. After narrowly escaping Mr. Handy's organ harvesting, Lucy has an idea to free the ghouls held captive here, including the feral type. And like something from The Walking Dead, they attack, but are quickly dispatched of, so no real threats here to Lucy in particular. Her conscience takes over and she takes some of the vials to the ghoul after her harrowing escape, which pretty much ends this episode. It wasn't a fabulous time, but good enough to earn a 7 out of 10 from me. So to wrap up my first impressions and review of these first 4 episodes, I'm a little disappointed, but I guess it's just hard to accept a good overall score when I was expecting a great one. I'm also eager to see where this goes. In my opinion, for these to be great, they would really need to start from the ground up, but we're past that, and I'll bid you adieu until I see the rest of the season. If war never changes, I'll be hard-pressed to see the benefits of it. Cheers!